Ladies and gentlemen and friends, welcome again. We're starting our first panel, or the panelist introduction. Before we do that, I just want to say that I'm really honored to see all of you here because some of you have traveled long distance to be here. And the DC traffic is really horrendous. So thank you for those people who have commuted and those people who have traveled. Now, in terms of the first panel, I want to share with you why I chose this topic. All Asian Americans, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders have contributed to this country's success, and they have benefited from the democratic ideals. So I know that the progress has not been even. We have different communities progressing at a different speed. However, we chose this country, we settled here, we are growing our families, our business, and we have progressed in the traditional sense of success, which is moving up. And here we have example of Sandy Chow, who has done extremely well, and he's our benefactor. If he wasn't here and had given AAUC $50,000 each year, we would not be present now. And also, S.K. Lowe, whose leadership continues, and she works very hard. So we are thankful to both of them. Now, in terms of the panel, we have some housekeeping rules, and that is I'll be introducing each panel member individually, and they will have approximately 9 to 8 minutes, and the rest of the time will be devoted to answers to your questions. If you want to write it down on a piece of paper or on your notepad on your phone, please do so, because after each person or individual has spoken, we will not take question at that time. We'll save it till the end. So now I think I'd like to get started with our very first presenter. She is Cindy Tsai, or Tsai? Tsai. She is an attorney and has been very active. Her focus is civil rights. She has been advocating on anti-hate as well as racial profiling and removing barriers for the Chinese community to get active in civil service and civil organization. So let's give her a hand to Cindy Tsai. Thank you, Cindy.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you. It is such an honor to be here to speak with all of you to talk about this very important topic, how AANHPI folks have really contributed to the United States democracy and progress. One thing in our prep call that we talked about is we wanted to set the tone and really hone in on what it means, U.S. democracy and progress. And so I like to try to get there with sharing a little bit about my personal journey. So I was born in Taiwan. When I was very young, my parents made the hard decision to sacrifice everything that they worked for to build their lives in Taiwan to come here to the United States for their children. When we talk about the immigrant story and we talk about the opportunities of the American dream, a lot of times where we land is about building wealth, power, status. But my parents, those were not the things that they were looking for their children. Instead, what they wanted is to give their children the freedom to choose their path. the freedom to learn about life, about the world outside of school, the freedom to choose their career beyond just how well they test at school or the national exam. That is what they wanted for us, that freedom to pursue our own happiness. And so this pursuit of happiness is really the foundation of US democracy. The Declaration of Independence states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that we are endowed with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The Declaration of Independence goes on to say that we, and by we we're talking about the founders, are building the government based on these principles, and that they're structuring and organizing the government to ensure the ability for us to maintain these principles in the government. So with that, the United States is unlike any other country in the world. And that is the reason why all of our parents, grandparents, great-great-parents came here to pursue that American dream. So I want to use that as like the framework and the backdrop of this morning's discussion. Also, I have great news for you all. I will not be taking 8 to 9 minutes, so you guys really do write more questions because we will be giving some more time back to you. So I want to highlight 2 lesser-known AANHPI women who have directly contributed to the progress of US democracy. The first is Mabel Lee. In 1912, she was 15 years old, and she led a march to advocate for the right for women to vote. She spent the rest of her career continuing to advocate for gender equality. The 19th Amendment, which gave the women the right to vote, was ratified in 1920. However, because of the Chinese Exclusion Act, she didn't have the opportunity to become a naturalized citizen, and therefore, despite her efforts and the passage of the 19th Amendment, she still wasn't able to vote. When we think about gender equality, at least for me, the person that comes to mind a lot is Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she's famously known to have said, "I ask no favor for my sex. All I ask of our brother is that they take their feet off our necks." I want to share another statement that was made by Mabel Lee decades earlier. The fundamental principle of democracy is equality of opportunity. It means an equal chance for each man to show what his merits are. The feminists want nothing more than the equality of opportunity for women to prove their merits and what they are best suited to do. The second person I want to highlight is Grace Lee Boggs. She spent 7 decades fighting for civil rights and labor rights. And she worked on many social issues, but her main focus was on the struggles of the Black community. And she worked alongside leaders like Malcolm X. In her autobiography, she wrote, "Had I not been born female and Chinese American, I would not have realized from early on that fundamental changes were necessary in our society." Now, I want us to digest that a little bit. Here's Grace, as a Chinese American, she faced a lot of struggles, a lot of which we probably all face today. But in trying to overcome her challenges, her thought process wasn't, what's the solution to help me get out of this challenge? Instead, her mind frame was, how can I move the country forward? How can I move US American democracy forward to get us to the ideals that would circum these challenges? And Mabel Lee did the same thing, right? Because she knew that as she was fighting for women's right to vote, it wasn't necessarily a right that she would actually be able to have because of the Chinese Exclusion Act. But she understood that when we got closer to gender equality, we also got closer to American democracies and ideals. I shared these two particular stories with all of you today as a reminder that our unalienable rights is not a passive gift. It's an ongoing effort. And so we must also not take these gifts for granted, work towards it, and ensure that they become staples of this country. And we need to celebrate everyone that puts work into this. That includes our teachers, our social workers, people that we may not know by name. It includes all of the organizers of today's event, and it also includes all of you who are here saying, I want to do something and go towards that American ideal and democracy. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Wajdi Said. He has come from Oregon. He has been very active in AAUC. He is founder and president of Muslim Education Trust. He is very active in a lot of advocacy efforts and has appeared on numerous events and has been participating in a lot of committees to promote peace and better or healthier understanding. And I also want to tell you personally, whenever I speak with him, it's always peace on you, peace on earth, and always dear brother, dear sister. So he is always speaking about peace, and let's give him a hand and invite him to speak to you.
Good morning, everybody. Assalamu alaikum, and peace be upon you, my beloved sisters and brothers. It's really a blessing to be here today. I have been involved with the Asian American Unity Coalition since 2019. I met a beautiful lady, Dr. S.K. Lowe. I was very impressed, with her enthusiasm at that time. I came as an observant, and I was invited by our late sister, Christine Chin Ryan, a beautiful American-born Chinese from Oregon, and has been a wonderful journey for me to know, our Eastern Asian, population that I never connected before, except through the Chinese Muslims and the Filipino Muslims. It's a blessing to be here. I'm very thankful to Angela and to many of the leadership of the Asian American Unity Coalition. Without them, we wouldn't have been here today. It has been a beautiful journey. I also welcome my friend Sandy Chow over here that have invested in many of these efforts of healing and unifying Asia. We as an Asian American, we encompass a huge continent from the east unto the west. At one time, there was a journey, what's called the Silk Road journey. It came from China all the way to Southwest Asia, where I am born in Yemen. They took goods from Yemen, coffee and honey, and many beautiful products, spices, and they trade north to Mecca and then to Jordan, Syria, Iraq, and Turkey, and many other places, Iran, Pakistan, modern-day Pakistan, or what used to be called South Asia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Kashmir, and then they went to China, and then to Korea. 700 years of peaceful engagement beyond artificial boundaries that have been created, by us human boundaries. Imagine this journey will have continued. We wouldn't have had any challenges today I'm talking today in the context of the American Muslim and the Arab American contribution to the United States. It is encompassing many Asian countries. Half of Asia is Muslim, and Arab speaking and many other languages, over 85 languages and over 120 ethnic groups. This is huge. And then also from Africa and Europe and North America. This is a 2 hours presentation, and I have to keep Angela and Ted, happy, and so I'll try to make it so quick and so on. So Arab Americans and Muslim Americans have migrated, to United States since 1850. A great senator from James Abu Rizq, I think from Dakota, North Dakota, he wrote his first book in the Arab American history and Muslim American history, and he traced all of this from 1850. And then later on, a large number came because of Mr. Ford Automobiles, that he went to Yemen and he recruited many Yemeni to work in his industry in Michigan. Today we have many professionals in the medical area and engineering and so on. The Sears Towers that you see in Chicago was designed by Bengali American and Mr. Chaudhary, and many other examples that we see today. There are over 120,000 Arab American doctors and Muslim doctors that are encompassing in many medical associations, including the Deccan from Hyderabad, or the Kashmiri Council, or many other Pakistani Physicians Association, and then also the St. Jude hospital. That's the largest tangible contribution of an Arab American, a Syrian American. At that time his name was Amos Mizyad Yaqub Ghayruz, and then he anglicized his name because imagine late 19th century and early 20th century how the anti-sentiments, anti-Arab and anti-Muslim sentiment, he called himself later on Danny Thomas. He came to reality and he founded St. Jude in 1962. Today St. Jude is the most healing hospital for children and many others. The early Arab Americans and Muslim Americans have been contributors to our beloved public square as the healers and unifiers. A great man by Jacques Shaheen, he traced in a book called Real Bad Arabs, R-E-E-L, Bad Arabs. He traced over 235 movies that been produced by Hollywood that created a lot of negative image of Arabs and Muslims, but they never mentioned the Arab American and Muslim American contribution. And today it's very important for us as Asian, as American, as humans, to understand that story of success is not one single story. It's rather than that we learn from each other. The Chinese American has faced, their own challenges. The Japanese American and many other Americans have faced, including the African American slavery and many other Native American and indigenous. Today we are here, we're enjoying many beautiful contributions, and it is very important for our youth today, and I'm very happy to see many youth today are here, is to think positively that you are healers and you are unifiers, and the sky is the limit. Muslim Americans trace the route to many areas of interest. They have contributed, to the early presence and foundations. Many elected officials today, like Ilhan Omar from Minnesota, Congresswoman, she's a Somali American, and Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, she's a Palestinian American, and before that Keith Ellison, an African American, and today we are contributing to society in many areas. In entrepreneurship, the biggest furniture and beautiful furniture, leather furniture, Ethan Allen, if you remember, that's by Kathar Farouqi, a Kashmiri American, a contributor to great industry of beautiful furniture. In entrepreneurship, in many areas today that we celebrate, many Yemeni Americans contribution in Michigan, in New York, also in California. In innovation and technology, notably included Tony Fadl, and the Syrian American co-creator of the iPod and iPhone with his fellow creators of that beautiful industry. Omar Ishraq, a Bengali American, former CIO of Medtronics. and medicine, and many others, so on. In political and civic engagement, we have mentioned some of them, but it's still an area that needs improvement within the Arab community and the Muslim community in relation to many other members. In civic rights, in civil rights, we have the Islamic Society of North America, Access, the Arab American Center for Economic and Social Services, and the Council on American Islamic Relations, and the Muslim Public Affairs Council, both, and the three of them are national organizations. In arts and culture and media, who remembers Casey Kasem, the top 10, music list? Many of the young ones wouldn't remember him, but he was famous in the 80s and the late 70s and 80s, in art and culture, we have many today celebrating Khalil Gibran, the famous, Arab American poet that has been influencing many of literature in the early 1900s, and his famous contribution is The Prophet, the movie The Prophet, and also the book The Prophet. In many entertainment, Paula Abdul, DJ Khalid, and Mehrasa Ali, and so many others, and then also in journalism, the senior journalist in the White House was Helen Thomas of Syria, and so on. And there are many other contributions that Muslim American and Arab American has contributed today to humanity. One of the best contributors was Nuhat Tolan. He was the founding dean of the College of Urban Planning. He is the one who defined many cities in the United States, and he put the College of Urban Planning in the map, and its headquarters is at Portland State University in Portland, Oregon. And he was mentioned in who's who, top 3 in the urban planning in the United States. He designed the city of Mecca internationally, and Medina, and Riyadh, and Dubai, and Abu Dhabi as well, and Doha, Qatar. There are many professors, there are many scientists and researchers in universities and colleges, and many other, in politics. The chief of staff during, Clinton, John Sununu, if you remember him, from Boston, and then Shalala, the Secretary of Health, as well, Arab American, and many other Muslim Americans that have contributed. In philanthropy, last year, the School of Philanthropy in Indiana, the Lilly School of Philanthropy in the University of Indiana, they say Muslim American has contributed an Arab American $18 billion to many charities in the United States, including for St. Jude and many other hospitals and relief that happened in Louisiana and Texas and many of the storms and many other areas. 18 billion, that's a lot of money for a population of 4 million only. So this is the famous Arab Americans and international Muslims that have received Nobel Prizes, that they're with their fellow forefathers and foremothers when history was misnamed the Dark Ages. It wasn't dark for Africa and Asia or southern part of Europe. It was dark for the European continent. These great forefathers and foremothers, they have produced cities of lights from 711 period to 1492, where Muslims were contributing to South Asia and East Asia and West Asia and also to North America. They say that the first discovery of America came from Muslims from Spain, and they were the navigators before Christopher Columbus. If you look into that real bad Arabs, you will understand how he traced the roots of these navigators that came to the New World. So this is the resources. With this short time, I'll stop here and let me know if I can help in the question and answers. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I try to do my best.
First of all, I want to thank you for sharing the success of your community. Thank you very much. We wanted to hear the real life stories, and that does make an impact. It inspires us to do well. The next speaker you have already met. He has numerous roles that he plays in our AAUC. He is Jack Hanna, who is a third-generation Syrian American retired as a Pennsylvania attorney after 40 years and now resides, I think our book says Portland, but he resides in Pennsylvania. He moved from there in 2018. He has been active in Democratic Party politics for 35 years, to serve as a member of Oregon State Central Committee. He attended the last 7 Democratic National Convention, in the most recent one as an elected Biden delegate. He was a founding organizer of an immigrant and refugee advocacy organization in Pennsylvania called the Refugee Working Group. Currently supports that same work in Portland as a board member of the New Portland Foundation. Let's welcome our Vice President, Jack Hanna.
Thank you, Angela. My presentation is a little bit on the fly in that I'm substituting for another presenter, but I'm very happy to do so, and I've decided to pick some specific individuals throughout our history that I think inspires the leadership that we all need to have as we go through life and confront the challenges that we sometimes face and obtain the inspiration that we need to go forward despite those challenges. So some of the examples that I would like to acknowledge and exemplify are first, the first Asian American congressman, who was, by the way, a Sikh. And his name was Dalip Singh Saud, and he was born in 1899 and immigrated to the United States, became a American farmer, and then obtained citizenship in 49 and became a judicial officer, serving as a judge. And then in 1957, he was elected in California as the first congressman of Asian American heritage and served there for 6 years. A great example in laying the foundation of political work in the United States for Asian Americans, and truly deserves to be recognized. Next, I want to talk about the Japanese internment camps and the litigation that occurred, titled the Karamatsu versus the United States case. Karamatsu was an American, was born an American citizen, and in the early 40s, during the internment, he refused to acquiesce and was thus charged, and as all the Japanese Americans were, not only the citizens but also the immigrants, as disloyal to the United States. He refused to acquiesce, and years later, several actions of litigation were filed with regard to challenging the government's actions during World War II. There were, as I recollect, 3 different cases, some filed in San Francisco and some filed in Portland, Oregon, as I recollect, and I can't remember where the third was, during the 70s and the 80s. The litigation was very challenging and costly, but the commitment of Karamatsu's legal team was finally successful and resulted in an act of Congress and the passage of the Civil Liberties Act of 1988, which acknowledged the government's illegal and improper actions against the Japanese American community. And although the financial payment was only $20,000 per person, a small amount, it was a great symbol and a great accomplishment of recognizing the foundations of what this country stands for and civil and human rights generally. Next, I want to talk about the birthright issue, which is founded on the 14th Amendment, which states, all persons born or naturalized in the U.S. and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. How did that came about as a result of the Civil War, and immediately thereafter, Congress decided that it must address the constitutional issues of all persons are created equal and subject to the laws and obligations and the rights under the Constitution of the United States. In 1898, Wong Kim Ark sued the United States after being born in the United States in 1873. He visited a family in China and returned to America shortly before 1898 and was refused entry and decided to litigate it to the highest court in the land, the U.S. Supreme Court, which eventually ruled in his favor 6-2, acknowledging his citizenship and his right to re-enter the United States. I think an interesting sideline with regard to that decision is the motivations of the 6 justices that voted in his favor. It has been implied were motivated not because of his specific rights or even Asian Americans' rights, but they were more concerned about the majority white community's immigrants coming to the United States and being challenged under the same basis. So I find that somewhat interesting, perhaps not surprising, but something important to remember with regard to that case. Next, and lastly, I also would like to discuss Khalil Gibran also, who is truly an inspiration, not only as a poet, but also someone who advocated for human rights. He was Lebanese born, but immigrated to Boston as a child with his family, and was educated there until he was a teenager, and then returned to Lebanon and Beirut, and acquired more education, and returned to the United States around 1808. And while he was in Europe, he also studied in Paris. He had a very broad view and understanding of human nature and culture, and was able to express it in a way that was quite unique at that point in time. He influenced modern Arabic poetry for the 20th century, and he's recognized as having a literary style that was both simple but also metrically beautiful, and also combined that with words of great wisdom. He focused on human relations with others, with nature, and with God. By the way, Wajdi earlier mentioned the movie, The Prophet, which was an animated movie that was released in 2014 and was produced and funded by Salma Hayek, who also has Arab heritage. And I just wish to acknowledge that he has taught and provided an important lesson to us all, that we continue our efforts of preserving our legal rights and recognizing our unique and important contributions to the U.S. for decades, despite improper efforts to support or ignore us. So these, I think, are examples for us all that we we need to understand in order to obtain inspiration and the fortitude that we must have to advocate for our rights and as citizens of the United States and humans of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jack. That was really inspirational, and especially when he only had 10 minutes to prepare it. Thank you for substituting someone who's still traveling, perhaps on the freeway. But thank you very much. I wanted to point out, yesterday some of us took a guided tour of the Capitol, and the guide pointed out to us that in the Capitol we have so many murals. We do have the slaves and their contribution to railroad. However, the Chinese, they worked on railroad, but there is no mural. So perhaps some of you who are activists can work on it and see that there is a representation of the Chinese American who came so many years ago and worked very hard. And at least, you know, there should be some way to recognize. So with that, we will open up for question answer. So let's see, you can raise your hand if you have a question. I don't see any hands up. All right, you are. Do you want to ask a special member or just general?
I was going to ask a general question.
Okay.
My name is Brian. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm on the Maryland Commission of Asian Pacific Americans for Governor Moore. I'm curious for the whole panel. We highlighted individuals who exist in specific ethnic groups and specific communities. How do we balance the celebration of individuals versus us as a united Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander community? And how do we go about, since this is a coalition summit, how do we move and balance those two?
Who would like to answer that?
I think that's an excellent question, and my response would be that the challenges that the various cultures and heritages that Asian Americans face here in the United States, I think for the most part, are common experiences. And so, in that sense, we are united, and we face the same problems, and we have achieved the same successes, number one. Number two, I think it's important that we understand the multiple heritages that exist throughout the Asian American community. And we learn by that. I know certainly I have about what achievements have occurred, and the various contributions that everyone has made. That's one of the missions, the main mission of our organization, the Asian American Unity Coalition. And we have intentionally attempted, I hope we are at least in part successful, of achieving a network and communications with the various Asian American heritages that we have, and go forward. This is a country that is a multiple fabric of cultures, and it's woven together to make what the United States is today. And I suggest our country derives its strength from that multiple weaving of heritages, and that as we go forward in the future in this ever shrinking world that our country and we advocate for that so that we benefit everyone. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as I had indicated, we had another panel member. He just arrived after fighting the traffic this morning. He's a resident of Maryland. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yes.
Virginia.
Maryland, that's
Maryland.
Yeah.
That's why it was harder to come here on time. But anyway, I just wanted you to know that we picked different individuals with different experiences, and I would like to give a few minutes and first to introduce and then have him speak to you. He's a business strategist. He has worked on Capitol Hill. He's a individual who grew up in India as well as in America. He has long experience. His focus is capital. He's a venture capitalist, and he likes to see that the budding businesses and the new businesses, they should be able to get capital. So with little introduction, but for the expanded one, you can see the program booklet. So I'll ask, his name is Rohit Tripathi. So he will share some of the stories from the South Asia, and especially from India.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. Angela, and my apologies for being late. As Angela mentioned, I am from Maryland, and the Beltway was pretty unforgiving, so apologies for that. I wanted to highlight one set of thoughts that we were brainstorming when we were preparing for this event, and that is the role of the seemingly small things that the Asian American community does. While we celebrate our scientists, our celebrities, our comics, our entrepreneurs, our CEOs, and so on and so forth, I would like to take a minute to acknowledge and appreciate the teachers that come from our community, not only at the K through 12 level, at the community college level, the first responders, police officers, the servicemen. And the reason why I bring them up is because I feel democracy is not entitlement, but participation. And the broadening of Asian American participation enshrines and makes it possible for us to be part of the broader American fabric. And as Jack was saying, a few minutes ago, I think we have to have a sense of ownership in the American experiment. We are participating not just as professionals and should not see immigrant communities as bringing economic value, but as Jack said, we are bringing a wide range of civilizational and cultural heritage that is enriching the American experiment. And what is the American experiment? The American experiment is enshrined in the opening of the Declaration of Independence, where life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's our North Star. That's the North Star for flawed men who wrote it. And it still is today at 250 years later. And I feel that our communities, whether I participate in it as a person working with startups, Cindy participates in it as working with communities and on civil rights, and my fellow panelists make contributions in their own ways. Ultimately, we are pushing forward the agenda of human dignity. And ultimately, we're pushing that agenda for all people. And our participation, our varied participation across the Asian American panorama, we come from very different backgrounds, even though we're kind of put together as Asian Americans. And I hope this is an event, Angela, that celebrates the diversity within the Asian American community. And hopefully, one thing that we all get out of this event is an inspiration to continue doing the big and the small things that further the American experiment and make the American social fabric livelier. Thank you.
We only have a minute or two. If anybody has a question, please raise your hand. Otherwise, you have the rest of the day. Yes, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you very much for your perspectives, and we heard a lot of stories about historically how Asian Americans have contributed to the American society. I was just wondering if you could say one thing to the youth today as to what is the strength of Asian American community, given the fact that it is so diverse, but still we tend to be put together as one. But if there was one thing we could tell our youth today, what is the strength of our community that we take forward as a part of this legacy?
I would say, hello? I would say two words. One is resilience, and then the second is creative. And I know that those are probably two adjectives that are not necessarily always used when describing the AANHPI community. But if you look at the history, if you look at the contributions that we talked about today, and there are so many more. So for the youth, like, AI is now your friend. If you are curious about, is there a person who, AANHPI, who contributed to this thing, type it in, they'll tell you. You know, we have historically just been both very resilient, and that's how we are still here today, and creative. One can mark, right? We talk about birthright citizenship, using the 14th Amendment as a way to show birthright citizenship for a Chinese American. That is super creative. So that's what I would say.
Rohit, you had?
Oh, I just wanted to add one more word. I mean, these are two perfect words, and I think nestled between these two words is the word pride. You have to take pride in your culture. Second generation, third and fourth generation, it doesn't matter what generation or even first generation. The pride combined with the two things you just said, resilience and creativity. And you can see that the people who have actually succeeded significantly in the second generation onwards were able to carry forward their cultural pride within these realms of creativity. And what was the second one?
Resilience.
And resilience, of course. Thank you.
My 2 or 3 words, actually, be positive, stay strong, and know your heritage. Because the base for you to stay strong is by knowing yourself and your abilities, to mobilize, that you come from great heritage and you have great history, but you are here. You have to be positive and stay strong. Never get intimidated by anybody.
Thank you.
I just want to add, as an undergraduate philosophy major, one of the most important phrases that I recollect and still continue to hold today is Plato's quote, "Know thyself." And I think one of the most difficult challenges for youth today that are Asian Americans, first, second, or third generations, is how you mesh together your identity as an American and still preserve the heritage that you have in the past, and have that be a strength, number one. But also, you are going to create a new vision of what America is about and what you are by thinking through who you are, where you came from, where you're going, and how you acknowledge your past, your heritage, your parents, and your community in general. So it's a very difficult process. In some ways, it's a lifelong process of learning to know who exactly you are. But keep it in mind. In the end, it will give you strength, and I wish you all the best. Our future is in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for participating, and especially